What is up, guys? We are back. This is The Real Deal with Casey and Jason, where we talk real life, real experiences, and occasionally real estate. Coming off a big Birds win this week.
Dude, that did not feel like a Birds win in the first half, but second half, overtime, it's pretty amazing, man.
I purposely didn't bring that up to you when I walked in, even though you were rocking the Birds sweatshirt. But
I was really down. Like, I went to the Christmas tree lighting down here, so I missed part of the first half, and I was texting Steve, and like, this is the worst 9-1 team in NFL history.
Horrible.
And then go back home, and I was dialed in, and turned out to be a good outcome.
I was this close to turning the game off, like towards the late part of the first half. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, it's not worth it. Like, I started getting to that point where I was like,
same.
It's starting to affect me a little bit, and I'm like, I don't like that.
Yep.
Like, I'm just going to turn it off and go to bed.
That. Dude, I know.
Just wake up. And then I'm like, but I could miss one of the greatest comebacks that we've ever seen, down 10 points back-to-back weeks. And so I watched it. I hung in there till the end. Jake Elliott's kick, I'm thinking, dude, come on. He's not making this thing.
Right, he's a stud, but this is pretty unlikely.
Yeah, like, he's not expected to make this. Yeah. I'm cool with it, whatever. Like, they're not going to win every game this year, obviously. They're already, dude, nails it.
Yeah.
They come down and score. They looked completely unstoppable. Josh Allen looked like Joe Montana.
Yeah.
And, man, Jalen, he's got something, though.
He's got something, and it's his – obviously, he's a talented athlete, right? He's in the NFL playing quarterback. But his intangibles, just his leadership style, his, like, resilience and willingness to unwillingness to quit, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't really know how to say that. But you know what I mean, as far as, like, just he doesn't flinch. Chris, our buddy Chris, Lucas Savage, shout out.
Chris from Middletown on WIP
Chris from Middletown.
for everyone.
Yeah. He reached out the next day to talk about the game, and that's what he said. He said they don't flinch. I was like, he's right. Especially Jalen. He doesn't flinch.
Nah. You know what I like, too, about him? I mean, as cool as he is on the sideline, like, you don't know when they go to him if he just threw a pick that got ran back for 6 and they're going to lose the game, or if he just, threw a touchdown to put him ahead and they're going to win the Super Bowl. Like, he's got the same demeanor. But even after the game, you notice, like, there's a lot of chirping going on. He doesn't say anything.
He literally had, like, the Eagles Instagram Live, and he looked at it and he said, "What do you want me to say?" Like, that is, I'm pretty sure those are his exact words.
I love that. It's like, you don't need to talk trash, when you play on the field. And I like that about him. Like, if he was real lippy and chirpy, it would be like, come on, dude, you didn't look that good most of the game. Like, you guys aren't, setting the world on fire. They're not blowing teams out, but they're winning.
Yeah, they're not blowing teams out. That's for sure. I heard a stat today that they have been losing at halftime the last 4 games. And obviously they've won all 4. But it's like, how does the team do that? How does the team come back from being down at halftime 4 games in a row to win them all? That's crazy.
And against good teams. They're in that part of the schedule that everyone's,
really
had kind of circled, like, these are tough games, tough teams.
Yep.
And not only been down at halftime, but they were down 10 the last 2 weeks. Last week they were down, or this week I should say, they were down 10 2 different times.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It is insane.
Which leads us right into our topic for today. So for everyone out there, so we'll get into it. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. We have a very loyal following, which is awesome. We've been doing this. We started this in January for anybody that's new. Started talking about personal development. We've talked kind of offline here about most people, I think, just kind of want to be entertained. This is not really like just an entertainment show. This is like personal development because we have experienced some things in our lives that have helped us to get to wherever it is we are, things that are helping us to go on our journey further. And that's what we focused it around. But, again, I think more people would rather be entertained than tune in for personal development. It's just my thought on this. But the people that do tune in are very loyal. I get messages and, texts and calls from our core group of people almost every time we put an episode out. So we appreciate all you guys that are loyal listeners and that, hopefully took something from this. And just thought it would be a good time of year. There's a clip that floats around this time of year, pretty much every year, from Ed Milet. He talks about separation season. So we're going to talk about that. It should be a good, timely episode. What is it? I'll start with asking you, what does it mean to you? Like, what do you think of this time of year or separation season in general? Like, what is that kind of, what's your take on it?
To me, it pretty simply means there's a lot of people in the world that are winding down this time of year. You know, whether it's a diet thing, you know, they're getting into lots of candy. I know all about that.
Same.
You know, taking lots of time off from work, you know, whether it's a 9 to 5 or their entrepreneurial business. And, you know, I don't want to say slacking off, but like using this time as like, I've earned it. Everybody's doing this, so it's cool for me to do it too. So that's kind of where I think most people are headed right now, or they are pretty well within it. And you and I are here to talk about, you know, kind of going against the grain.
Yeah. I heard an analogy about, you know, kind of, this was in regards to the mortgage business right now, because the mortgage business as a whole is in that same season of, it's separation season, where a lot of people, because the market's not as good, because rates are up, it's kind of that like lull period where people think like, let's just wait it out. So just don't do anything. Let's just wait it out and get through it. So I heard this analogy that, you know, like if you're in a foot race with someone and everybody in the foot race, or say there's 10 people in it and 8 of those people stop at some point during the race, or they go to a slow walk or a crawl. If you're the 1 or 2 people that keep sprinting in that time, like when the race starts again for the other people, it's going to be too late for them to catch up.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we are in the year right now. Maybe that's where you are in your business, you know, and maybe you're in the mortgage business or in something similar that's kind of feels like that. Like it's time to, like, might as well just slow down. Might as well take it easy.
Just looking for permission almost.
Hey, it's the holidays.
And we give people permission to do that.
Yeah.
Like all of us, like if somebody came to me and said something like that, like, you know, I've been taking it easy, because my reaction, my instant, like, my first thought would be like, yeah, man, like I get it. Like instead of like, you know, flipping on the switch, being like, oh man, come on, like now's the time. Now, my gut reaction, because of, you know, my environment through the last 34 years has been, you know, my gut reaction is, I get it. Like, cool, yeah, take your time.
Yeah,
you know,
no sense in pushing right now, right? Yeah, I feel the same way, and I feel also very well qualified to talk about this because I've lived this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, even, you know, this year I'm not, you know, where I want to be at the moment. Like, I know that I've definitely let my foot off the gas on a couple things. So I think I'm well qualified to talk about it.
Same.
So I guess with that being said, like, what is, like, let's look at a couple different areas and how we can use this time to separate ourselves from, we'll say, the pack, from the 98% of people that are mailing it in right now. Look, even if they're working a 9 to 5 and they're still putting in 40 hours a week, they're probably not, like, you're distracted. If we're being honest out there, like, you know, maybe you're on Facebook at your desk or your cubicle. Maybe you are not making the calls you're supposed to be making. Maybe you're not quite hitting your numbers, but, you know, look, people are taking off, right? It's the holiday season. So how can we, you know, what are some things we can instill now to kind of separate ourselves during this time so that when everyone else starts again in January, we're already ahead of the game? And we'll talk about a couple different areas here. Starting with the most basic one, doing it when you don't feel like doing it, and doing it when other people don't feel like doing it.
Yeah, man, to be honest, I forget what time you walked in here, half hour ago, 2:30 probably. I didn't want to do the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. Love you to death. Did not want to do the podcast. I was like, I had just gotten, I don't want to call it bad news, but just like something that was frustrating in a real estate deal. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. We don't need to do the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I was completely fine with it, but I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we're doing it. This is one of those, you know, push through it when you don't want to do it things. And I know that, like, I can already feel like the difference, like those emotions I was feeling are pretty much gone. And it's like, this is the path that I should be on. And it's better this way.
Yeah. What do you think about, you know, like the impact of being present? Like when you were saying that, because I'm thinking about it too. And like, you know, for everyone out there, I work at home now, so I don't have an office like right around the corner. So like even to come up here, like you're saying, to do the podcast, sometimes it's like, you know, there's a lot of things going on. My truck's broke down. Like I got to get Danielle's car. I got to make sure she gets home. It's a process to get up here. So I'm like, it's very easy to be like, hey, let's just push it off this week. We'll cancel whatever. But I don't remember what my question was for you, but being present in the moment. So like, if you can turn off that switch of, like maybe the emotion or feeling, whatever it is, switch, but turn it into being present. Do you think that helps you with stuff like this?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I'm not really sure how I do that. I mean, I think in this situation, it was just kind of like, well, you're here. We're not going to sit here and not do the podcast. Like, like you said, you came up all this way. You got stuff going on. Like, let's get into it. Yeah, I don't know as far as like how I, go about making the decision to be present, but it is a conscious decision. Like that's over with. It's out of my control. Like, let's move on to something more productive.
It's kind of like, let's get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the feeling too, that we all have to fight through this time of year. And, in this area of business and health and fitness, just doing it when you don't feel like it, doing it when other people aren't doing it. And, those efforts of like just showing up during this period, I think they go a long way because they compound.
Yeah, well, like even something as small as, and I'm not giving myself credit here, but I'm just like you and I think we could dedicate a lot more time to the preparation of the podcast. Like I was just putting, like we've talked about that.
100%.
You and I have talked about that.
Literally right before we just started recording.
Yeah. So like yesterday when I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw a text out to Case and we're just going to talk about, topics for tomorrow. Cause like we have so much going on that this kind of goes to the wayside a little bit. That's unfair. So just sending, I was trying to just be intentional, and maybe that's what, is a better way for me to describe how I get into those moments where I want to be present is to be intentional.
Yeah, I like that.
And there's a lot of that crossover into the fitness world that I've been listening to from Ben Patrick talk. He's big on intent, and I've noticed it a lot with my athletes that when we're intentional about what we're doing instead of just going through the motions, even though the exercise might look pretty similar, doing it with intent and doing it just to do it create completely different results.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my intention yesterday was, hey, let's be present. Let's really, actually focus on some preparation, even if it was something as small as sending you a text a day ahead of time.
But that honestly is so helpful.
Yeah.
Because, as you go through your day after you're thinking about that, it's like, all right, well, we have a topic. Let's think about the topic. Let's bullet point some things, at least mentally. And then that way we come in here and we're prepared. We can knock it out. So I think that goes a long way. And it really goes into something else that we had kind of jotted down as we were starting this. As anyone out there is looking ahead to the end of this year, next year, whatever, one of the things that that will allow you to separate is having some accountability. You do that for me. I hope I do that for you.
You do. Yeah. Sure.
But for anybody out there, like, who is that person that's going to hold you accountable for things that you say you're going to get done, goals that you set for yourself, goals that you set with other people, business partners, your family, whatever it is? Like, make sure you have some kind of accountability in place, because that accountability really is kind of what pulls me through tough times, where like it's easy to not show up when it's just you and there's no one counting on you. It's easy to not show up. If this was a one person thing, or if you're training by yourself, but if you have accountability, if you got a workout partner we've talked about before, or you have an appointment with someone that you've already set, like that accountability goes a long way. So as anyone out there is thinking about, how do I make sure I'm consistent when I really don't feel like doing it? It's cold out. It's light for like 3 hours a day right now. So much easier to stay in bed. But who's that accountability person? And, try to find someone that motivates you, someone that holds you accountable, and set up a schedule with them where it's going to keep you on track.
Yeah. And I think something that we overlook is that simply asking for someone to keep you accountable, or, that's a vulnerable thing.
Oh yeah.
And I think so many of us, me included, shy away from those things because it's a vulnerable thing. Or like, I probably could be more vocal about how I, need your help, or, my parents' help, or friends, or whoever it may be. But my instant reaction is, don't do that, because then they're going to think you're weak, or then they're going to think when it's really, I actually truly believe that it's a strength, to be vulnerable, to ask for those accountability partners is actually a strength. But so many of us, myself included, are like, no, I don't need that because that makes me look weak.
Yeah.
False.
And I also feel like, man, if I ask him to hold me accountable, that means like there's really no getting out of anything.
Yeah.
like the accountability is almost that I gave someone permission to hold me accountable. Mm-hmm. And it's really with yourself. And, you know, I think we need it though. It's not like being ultra disciplined is not easy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I've had spurts in my life where I've been ultra disciplined on things like diet, exercise, whatever else, but it's not easy to do it all the time. Yeah. So, which is why we need the accountability.
No doubt.
Let's go over some things. Some of the other things we wrote down here, just kind of jotted out, like different areas and kind of how we can use separation season with these areas. Mm-hmm. With diet, this is something I'm struggling with right now. I'm getting back on track, mm-hmm. and maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. I don't really feel inclined to give advice on diet. But maybe I can just go over something I'm struggling with.
Yeah, do it.
Dude, this is the time of year, right, where we eat. We got Thanksgiving, you got Halloween, you got Christmas, you got all these holidays. Mm-hmm. For me, what I've kind of done with diet and with exercise, I'll tie that in together, and fitness goals, is I kind of moved to like January 1st is like the time everyone starts. Mm-hmm. And I've done that the last couple of years. I've started like a diet workout routine January 1st. This year, I've moved that back like a month. So I have in mind like a target of where I want to be on January 1st, mm-hmm. rather than like I'll just blow off the last 2 months of the year and I'll start January 1st. Right. So just having that, like I've slipped a little bit. I've let some things go, but knowing that I have a goal, targeted weight in mind, and body fat percentage in mind for January 1st is what's keeping me, from going too far off the rails.
Yeah, this is the time when. Come January, like right now. Sorry,
was there?
No, it wasn't. I just had when I was watching the YouTube shorts last night, I was watching one. Where was it? That's what she said. And you're like, are you good?
of our videos.
It was like one of your mannerisms just now that reminded me of it. Like, I was like, shit,
you good, bro? All right. Well, at least it wasn't a "that's what she said" moment.
It wasn't, but I was just like, "Dang!" I
just clicked it.
I couldn't get out of my head. Sorry.
Well, it's been a while since we had one of that.
I know. But no, man. This is the time when everybody's gonna, like, in anticipation of what they expect to do January 1st, they're gonna let the next month slide because of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And it doesn't work like that.
No, so, and actually I heard Donna at the Village, shout out Donna, the GM over there. She's awesome. She was working out yesterday. I came in and she was behind the desk. I can't look at you right now. And she was like, and I was like, man, you got to go workout in. And she was like, yeah, like I was going to start January 1st, but like I'm starting now. And I was like, okay. It's just funny you said that. Because, like, those were her exact words. She was like, I can start January 1st, but why? Like, let's just start now. And I was like, okay, that's big time. Yeah,
Andy Frisella talks about that too. He's like, the biggest way to make sure that you don't hit your goals is to set like this is important stuff, guys, that we're going through here, so please pay attention. But I'm actually glad we had this. I'm glad we had this moment.
I know.
That's what she said moment.
A little bit lighter. Yeah.
But like is to basically create an excuse in your mind for why you're not going to start it until a later date. It's like He talks about the boss voice and the bitch voice in your head.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's the bitch voice talking. When you're like, like I'll get on it later. So
yeah, for sure.
That's what she said.
See, I slammed the pen.
Yeah.
Nick's not going to like that. But as far as what I'm doing diet wise, and again, I don't necessarily consider myself qualified to talk about this, but what's working for me is less sugar, because man, I eat candy all the time, and it just makes me feel like crap. It gives me, I don't get headaches often, but if I've eaten too much sugar, and especially with what I'm doing training now, I'm not drinking as much water as I probably should be. It affects the way that I feel. It affects the way that I act toward people.
Yep.
And
so how do you limit that though, or do you do like a period of time where you're like, I'm going to cut it out, or do you just limit it?
Yeah, right now it just kind of got to a point where I weighed myself a couple of weeks ago, and for like probably the past, I don't know, 3 years or so. I mean, I was if I was 185 to 188, almost all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like 196, and I was like, yeah, that's different. And I mean, my diet has changed to, I'm pretty much exclusively on the carnivore diet except for candy. But so I could have been gaining weight because I'm eating so much protein. But either way, it didn't feel right. I wasn't feeling good. So just been cutting out sugar. And I don't really have a system as much as I have like just accountability with myself.
Yeah. So I usually, there's two ways I do it. Either one is like I set a time frame where I'm like, all right, for 30 days or for 75 days during 75 hard, like I'm going to cut it out completely. Or I just eat so much that I literally make myself feel terrible, and then I'm like, all right, I'm not going to continue doing this. So then I cut it out. Which probably neither is like a great approach. But again, like everyone's different. I think some people are okay with moderation. I've never been that type of person.
No,
like moderation doesn't work for me. It's like if I have a little bit, I want a lot, like a lot more.
Yeah, and I think this is a much different ball game, but my experience with alcohol it parallels with so much of this stuff. It's like, why did I stop doing that? It's like, I stopped doing that because A, like it was out of control. B, like I felt like crap the next day, and C, like I was hurting other people. And like while sugar doesn't necessarily make me hurt other people or make me make crap decisions, I do think to a point like I'm not my best. I know I'm not my best when I am literally eating 12 Kit Kats like in a sitting. Like see ya. So I'm like, I've done this before. I know that if I don't do it, I'll feel better, and it's going to create a better situation for myself and everybody around me. Yeah. So I can draw from that a little bit.
Yeah. Quick parallel right now that I'll make. We were talking about this, but the book "Outwitting the Devil" by Napoleon Hill. I was saying that it's so fascinating because he wrote this book, or he wrote this like manuscript in 1930s, and he talks about in the book there's a fictitious conversation with the devil where he interviews him. And the devil basically goes into how he controls people's minds. And he says through vices, and he even talks about cigarettes, where in the 1930s, everyone smoked. Young kids smoked. It was very widely accepted. It wasn't taboo at all. We didn't even know the health risks as people. But he talked about vices and how they basically, they create these habits and they create weakness in the mind. And then, the devil kind of takes that mind space. Yeah. And really, he talks about cigarettes in the book, but he also talks about diet. And I think it could be anything. It could be sugar. It could be, alcohol for some people. But I think anything that really, if there's something out there that kind of has a hold on you, it breaks down your mental fortitude. Yeah, you're powerless to that thing. Right. And it could be something as stupid and little as freaking chocolate. Yep. Because I've been there, and I go through spurts where I'm like, I literally am addicted to it. I think sugar is probably more addicting than it's than a lot of things. I agree with you, and it's not. I guess it probably is widely accepted or understood but not to a level where people think that it's really bad for you. It's kind of like, you shouldn't have it, but it's not like, no, that's actually really damaging your health. Yeah. It's not like where I think we feel that way more about cigarettes, and it seems like alcohol is gaining traction in that, but the sugar thing is way away from that. I just can't believe how addicting it is. Like if somebody out there's never went like 2 weeks without any sugar, just cut it out completely. It is like you literally feel withdrawals. And it's hard to find things that don't have added sugars in them. Yeah, very hard. Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. We kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think it's important that we kind of look at all these things because right now is when, we give ourselves a lot of grace during this period of time. We let ourselves slip, just typically like this time of the year. So it's important to kind of look back at maybe what some of those causes are and like you said, look at what's going to create the best version of yourself. Does it include overeating, over drinking, not moving your body during this period of time, not doing the calls you're supposed to make if you're in business, not making the customer contacts, all these things that we know we're supposed to do that we're going to just pick it up on January 1st. Does it make sense to just not do that for the next couple months? Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, we all do it, right? What you just said
feels American. Like if what you just said feels like that is the way, but it's so clearly not. And people who, like myself, who have or currently do subscribe to, take it easy, eat more, whatever the case may be. They know that it's not the right way, but it's almost like it's accepted. It's definitely the easier way to do it. And I think, we've talked about at length, if it's the easier thing to do, that temporary pleasure is there, but you know what the long-term result's going to be.
Yep. So, what's that going to look like for us? Like, for each person, it's going to be different, but just, we'll leave you with this. Like, where are you going to be January 1st? Are you going to be looking back at the last month, pissed off at yourself, out of shape, overweight,
not feeling good?
Your diet's been crap. You drank too much the last month. You ate too much. You didn't do what you're supposed to do at work, and you're like, starting again, January 1st, 2024, just like you did in 2023 and 2022 and 2021? Or are you going to be at that point where you look back and say, damn, I'm glad I started a month early. I'm glad I didn't let off the gas completely, because I can tell you with health and fitness, business, all these different areas, it's so much easier to ride some momentum and keep the thing moving forward rather than this stop and start. It's just so hard to get started again once you fall out of rhythm with these things.
And I think a lot of it is, I don't want to call it peer pressure, but like just acceptance from your friends group and things like, and like, if it was something that you and I and all of our friends did every year, like to be different is tough. Like to be the one that says like, nah, man, like I'm not going out and drinking tonight, or I'm actually gonna hit the gym tomorrow morning instead of like sleeping in, like things like that. It's a difficult thing to do. But I would encourage people who feel that way to, you talk about it, be the change you want to see. Like do it for you, but what you do also could really positively impact other people in your life. And that's what gets me going in general. That's why I love training athletes. I'm like, man, I could help this person. So
love it. Well, let's make some separation, guys. We'd love to hear some comments and feedback from anyone out there, what you're going to do to separate yourself in the next month of the year. The last month of the year, December 2023, this year's about to close out. And we'd love to see the progress that you're making and kind of what your goals are. Heck, we'll even hold you accountable if you want us to give you a shout out on here, and call you out by name for sticking to what your goals are, what you set out for yourself. So until next time, guys, this is The Real Deal, and we'll see you soon.
See y'all.